What's up, everyone? So, today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about something that has come up in my recent how to work online or freelancing series, and that is why I think you should start on Fiverr before you go over to Upwork, especially if you have zero experience freelancing. So, I'm super happy that I started on Fiverr, even though when I first started, it was like a giant failure. And it failed because I just didn't understand how the platform worked. And I understand if you're new to the platform that it can be quite overwhelming for you because without the exact step by step procedure on how to get started on Fiverr, it's very easy to get lost on the platform. So I understand that part. Once you get started on Fiverr, I think that it's an easier platform to get your work experience in order for you to use your work experience on Upwork. So that's the biggest and major reason why I think that you need to start on um, Fiverr. So let me tell you a few things that are going to be required on Upwork that you would need, and that's why you need to start on Fiverr first. So the first, like I've mentioned, is the experience. So if you set up shop on Fiverr, the person who hires you can do so without you providing proof that you have done that type of job before. So my first job on Fiverr was writing YouTube descriptions. Because I hadn't done it before, I knew that it's a service that I could offer. But because I hadn't done it before, I didn't have anything to prove that I could actually do it. Which now you can also do by creating sort of like a mock client. So, for example, you can pretend that you have been asked to create something that you want to sell, and then by the time someone asks you, do you have proof of this, you can submit that thing that you did as sort of like a trial run, so to speak. But the only disadvantage of something like that is that you don't have a third party telling you if it's exactly the way they wanted it or if it meets their requirements. And you would also not have a testimonial, which is required on Fiverr by the platform. So the seller, the buyer would have to write a testimonial for you, and you can later on use that testimonial on Upwork. When I was hired on Fiverr, this person hired me because I set up shop and I said I could do this, right? Then I also had my prices there. So they asked me how much would I be willing to do this for because it was outside of the scope of my prices. I gave them a price. I was given a few days to do this task, and that was it. And then they gave me a review and they paid me, which was awesome. Then a new person came through who wanted me to proofread her ebooks. I said there that I can do this, and these are my charges for this particular job. So she came there ready with her content, and all she needed to do was hand it over to somebody. Whereas on Upwork right now, I feel like once a person says that I'm looking for such a person to do proofreading for me, then they also say in the same brief, please provide samples of work that you've done in the past. Most of the jobs that I've seen on Upwork require this. But on Fiverr, it wouldn't be that big of a deal to such an extent that you don't even apply because the person would have come to you. Whereas on Upwork, you need to go to them. So I hope that makes sense. The second thing about why you need to start on Fiverr is that Fiverr projects are project based, meaning if you're done with that particular project that you were hired to do, chances are after the payment has been made, that person will probably not hire you again. Um, but recently they've added a subscription service or subscription tier to their service offering, which means that now a person can turn over their services into like a monthly retainer, so to speak, without them having to pay, extra charges every time they hire the same person to do the same thing month to month. Whereas on Upwork, you can actually get contracts that are ongoing from the very first time that you started working with that particular person. So the reason why I'm highlighting this difference is so that you can understand that once you've gotten the work experience on Fiverr and you take it over to Upwork, the person who's hiring you there on an ongoing basis is looking for someone to take that task off of their hands, which means that you must be a self starter and you must be self managed. And that's important because I think if you've had to juggle a few tasks, different tasks at once on Fiverr, you are more than capable to run multiple ongoing contracts on Upwork. So I think that's a very, very important point to make, because if one task is gonna frazzle you, rather do it on Fiverr, because on Fiverr you can also set the duration, whereas this side you need to work on an hourly basis. And if you're still learning, then it will affect your completion, your delivery, all of those things this side on Upwork. Having done previous work will also give you access to testimonials, like we've discussed. So with the testimonials, you are going to use them on Upwork in order for you to cement that you've done this type of work before. But more than that, you want to ensure that the client will continue to hire you on an ongoing basis. When you showcase your portfolio on Upwork, it needs to contain all the previous works that you have done. So some buyers actually look at this. I've had a buyer who messaged me and said, I like the work that you did with that client. It's because in my attachment, as proof that I've done the work before, I've included live links for them to go to the pages that I've worked on and for them to see my work in action. Because that speaks more, it says more than what you could ever put in words in terms of how experienced you are in the type of job that you want to get. So if the work that you've done was confidential or something like that, you first need to get a permission from the client that you worked with to ask if you can share a portion of the work. It doesn't need to be everything. Ask if you can share a portion of the work. If the answer is yes, that's what you're going to use as your portfolio. If not, you need to find a way to showcase that you have done the work, um, and maybe put it in your portfolio as well, because that will just speak louder than words in terms of convincing the other person that you've done the work before. So all of these things are my opinion, but I think that I'm glad that I started on Fiverr, because Upwork was no cakewalk. And I think that Fiverr prepared me in terms of how the whole thing works, how the money circulates, in order for me to have a bit of an easier time on Upwork. Because Upwork might be easier if you look at the way it's structured, but if you don't have work experience, you're not that tech savvy, and you're also like not sure how the whole thing goes around, then I think that it might not be the best platform to get started on. However, I have heard of people who say that Upwork is easier than Fiverr. So yeah, like, because I think it's not just setting up your profile that's hard, it's also the constant applying. I think that's what online, that's what I see most people complain about. Like, I've been applying for 6 months and this hasn't worked, and all these other things. And you'll find that it's something really small that they're not doing right. For example, they are not attaching samples of their previous work. They attach maybe 10 samples where one beautifully put together PDF would have sufficed. They are not convincing enough in their cover letter, because these people read those things, you know, or they are very sloppy in the way that they approach the client. So the biggest thing to remember is that the person who's buying, or the buyer, also has a lot at stake. They don't want to waste money on someone who's not going to get the job done according to their requirements. A smart thing that they do is that on the brief, they would put in keywords to see who reads the briefs. Because sometimes people would just like skip right over it and just start applying without seeing exactly what the buyer is requesting. So they'll put a little keyword like, maybe start with this word in the cover letter to see that you've read this post. And I think if it's your very first time on Upwork, you might not know what the reasoning behind that is. Another thing, my friend told me that when she joined Upwork, she used all her connects on one job, meaning now she cannot apply again up until maybe 3 months, so that she can collect 30 connects in order for her to apply to as many jobs as possible. Because if you don't know what connects are, you're not going to be able to function on Upwork. So I think once you understand sort of like how the the cycle goes in terms of freelancing on these platforms, it's easier for you to go to the platforms that have been around for a while because they've refined their platforms in order for it to work uniquely to what their needs are. So, yeah, I really hope that this makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know down in the comments. I'm still available for one on one coaching, for if you want to work either on Fiverr or Upwork. Just let me know in the comments down below and I'll get in touch with you. Until next time, bye.